I was chosen by Bruce. I guess he was familiar or first heard my music for the Hellboy animated direct-to-video movies that I did, and it's kind of funny. I got a call from Susie Savita at the vice president of music at Warner Brothers, and she's like, "Bruce Timm is a fan," and she started to proceed to tell me who Bruce Timm was. And as far as this project, not knowing that I was a huge fan of Bruce Timm's, going back, I mean, my geek story, which I'll try to make it short as possible, is back in '95. Remember when there was Warner Brothers stores? Kevin Conroy, the one true voice of Batman, was at a signing, and this was back in Arizona before I moved to LA. And I had gone there with my mom and my 2-year-old son at the time, and we were there to meet Kevin and have him sign some. We got whatever piece of artwork that they sold. And as we were leaving, my mom in one breath blurts out, "Mr. Conroy, my son is a composer, and one day he's going to move to Los Angeles and score a Batman movie with you in it." And I just stood there like horrified at that, completely drained of blood that, and Kevin, this is what a classy guy Kevin is. Instead of like being like security, get these people out of here, Kevin was like, in his Batman voice, looks at me in the eye and says, "Chris, follow your dreams. I look forward to the day that we work together." And here we are 9 years later, and I'm doing, it's the dream come true. There was 3 composers, myself, Kevin Manthe, who did Invader Zim, and recently Justice League New Frontier, Robert Krall, who did best known for Angel, and Duck Dodgers. We each composed 2 of the 6 segments, and my story was the first in the film, the opening credits, "Have I Got a Story for You," which is written by Josh Olson with the children, and the second story I did was called "In Darkness Dwells," which was written by David Goyer. What I did for the first one, it's interesting because there's 6 different segments, and we were all of us composers were sequestered from each other, so there was no musical cross-pollination of ideas. We were just let loose to go with our own musical voices, to keep the music also as unique as an identity to the look of each segment. And so for the first one, it was interesting because, again, there were 6 stories, 6 different takes on looks on Batman. But within the first story, "Have I Got a Story for You?" it's a POV story from I think 4 different kids. Their interpretations of Batman. So even within that story, there are 4 different alternate universe looks at Batman. And I try to have each one, for instance, there's kind of this living shadow, a Batman that kind of moves like he kind of is like an oil slick. So I wanted the music to be kind of to shape-shift and be avant-garde. And then the next one, he's an actual creature like a bat monster. So I really wanted it to be like, like those great horror scores from the 40s, and 30s, monster music, and so forth. So I try to give each interpretation of Batman just within that one segment his own, kind of a mini theme. And so that was that. And then I didn't want to repeat anything. I think none of us actually repeated any type of thematic, Batman theme, between each of our things. We wanted each one they're almost kind of like parallel universes with their own, music. And so for the fourth one, "In Darkness Dwells," the music is much more different, and I try to, because I'm a fan of Batman Begins and the Nolanverse, if you will, I try to have it be my own score, but also maybe tie in thematically with use of synth and process percussion, which was kind of what was used in the score for Batman Begins, but still make it my own. But kind of, again, the whole point being an Elseworlds parallel universe of the Nolanverse. But for a fan, even on a subliminal level, there's something familiar there where you go, oh yeah, it ties in. So that was a lot of fun because I got to write. This was more of your classic Batman as a detective in the sewer, he's basically on the hunt for a cannibal that's kidnapped a cardinal in Gotham City, and it's a long-time Batman villain that's realized. But it was great because I got to write my Batman theme for that. And whereas the other one, it was kind of light because it was children, but this was Batman as Batman gets. And so I use the old music theory. It's not real music theory, but it's worked for John Williams, which is you take the name of the hero, how many syllables it is, Superman, bum ba dum. And so for Batman, 2 notes, Batman, 2 syllables, da-na. And so that became the theme for it, and it was really great to blow it up and put choir on it and make this big gothic. It's got this beautiful intro to the story. It's almost like Blade Runner. It's very Blade Runner. It's this fly through Gotham City, and I just got to write. It was like a dream come true to write Batman music, and this is like the most awesome thing you've seen. And he comes up as a shadow and jumps off these buildings. So that was a real thrill to write music for that. In television, there really is not, and direct-to-video now, there is no time, and there isn't a lot of budget to hire, unfortunately, a real orchestra. Shirley Walker, I mean, there was a great kind of a renaissance in television animation during the early 90s, and Shirley had, I think, maybe like a 60-piece or 30-piece orchestra. Now there just is not the budget for that, so it's literally all me. I'm performing every instrument. I'm playing the violins. I'm playing the horns, and even the choir. It's all synth. None of it is real. But I really try to do, is it real or Memorex? You really want to make it sound as authentic and realistic as far as an orchestra, because that's what you expect, And it's just, you spend a lot of time. It's funny, you have less time and you don't have a real orchestra, but not only am I a composer, I'm also a producer, and I'm also an engineer, and dealing with that. And that's the same thing with Rob and also Kevin. I think Kevin actually hired. The piece that he did, it's this beautiful piece where it takes place in India, and I think in that case he actually did hire some musicians that played some ethnic, I think they were woodwinds or something like that. So that helps, because a lot of times when you have to do something like a really far out instrument or an ethnic instrument, you can't just find like a shakuhachi or a really cool it's called a duduk or something like that, or very, like an Armenian flute. You actually have to hire somebody to play it, to be realistic. But going back to the first segment I did, Have I Got a Story for You, was interesting because when Bruce and I spotted the session, spotting means that's when I first get together with the director or producer, and we talk about where the ins and outs of the music is. Because it takes place with inner city kids, Gotham City, they're like basically skater kids. And Bruce said, well, how do you feel about scoring this with a hip-hop soundtrack? And I was like, well, dude, I'm a 35-year-old white guy that grew up in Arizona listening to Jerry Goldsmith albums. I don't know if hip-hop's my forte, but I play guitar, And so he was like, well, why don't we try kind of like a Gen X alternative rock thing? So it was funny because I was just telling somebody the other day, I never would have imagined if someone was telling me that I was getting to score a Batman movie that I'd be playing guitar on it. And sure enough, I was playing guitar and drums, and we did this kind of like this punk rock intro. It's whatever the story needs, we have to adapt and support. And so that was kind of the vibe you wanted to get, was these kids, these skater kids. So that was kind of cool. The only live intro, I was talking about Kevin using ethnic instruments for his piece. I actually played guitar. That's probably the only real. It was an electric instrument, but that was the only, other than everything, including drums being played on the keyboard, that was the only real, other than keyboard, instrument being played there. I don't know if it's official yet, if I can say it. It is another DC direct-to-video film, which is the next one that's coming out. But I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything more than that. I think anybody that knows what's going on probably can maybe put that together, but yeah. I'd have to get clearance on Bruce. I don't know where Bruce is on that, if I answer that. I'm also, there's a project, another project I can't tell you about, but I can tell you Guillermo del Toro is producing it. And it's going to be a live-action things with, believe it or not, monsters. Guillermo del Toro in monsters. It's a new genre for him, so.